この侍の体に敗北を与えてしまうと心苦しい。
恥じる気持ちがありゃ十分。心身ともにあってこその剣士だ。お前が生きた時代に会いたかったよ。刀はもらうが勝負はなかったことにしようぜ。ワノ国の侍。
We all know Zoro, unless you don't, somehow, and you just randomly clicked on this video. So hi, lots of spoilers ahead. We start with Kuina, one of the only two swordsmen to have a winning record against Zoro, and Kuina is Zoro's first friend. This is where the topic of grief and death gets its start in the series. A simple accident involving a staircase. Some fans like to speculate and say there was more to this, but I don't think so. I think what Oda was trying to say here was that death is completely random. It will hit anyone. And it could have hit Zoro, but instead it was Kuina. That's just how the luck went, I guess. Zoro obviously does not take it well. He's sobbing, despite clearly trying his best to suppress his emotions. Still, you can't blame him. His only friend died after they promised for one of them to become the world's strongest swordsman, a dream they both share. Zoro then asked to carry Kuina's sword, the Wado Ichimonji, a physical representation of Zoro carrying on their promise. But to me, in my lens at least, it's a little bit more than that. This is Zoro's way of grieving and respecting the dead, carrying a trinket of them to remember them by. Seems almost childlike, doesn't it? After this, Zoro becomes a bounty hunter, and by reading the subtext, subtext, we can assume that Zoro killed a little bit of his bounty targets. Maybe most, maybe not all of them. But that's just speculation at this point. Though, it's still odd, isn't it? One who respects the dead so much has no qualms with hunting the living for a livelihood. Perhaps it's just because they're bad people. Maybe that's how Zoro justifies it. Skipping over to the Mihawk fight, Zoro loses, and Zoro would much rather die than give up his dreams, give up Kuina's dream. And then after that, he declares his iconic speech to Luffy.
兄貴！ルフィ！聞こえるか？ああ！不安にさせたかよ。兄貴もう喋らねえでくれ！兄貴！俺はもう二度と負けねえか！あいつに勝って大健康になる日まで絶対にもう俺は負けねえ！文句あるか！海賊王！
Okay, after that, I think we can all agree that Zoro doesn't really fear death, or at the very least, fears defeat more than he fears death. Moving on to the Thriller Bark arc, after Zoro defeats the mummified corpse of Ryuma, he takes Shunsui and tells Ryuma that they're just going to forget the outcome of the fight, out of respect for Ryuma's pride. And look, he's taking another trinket to remember someone who died. That sounds familiar? He's doing the exact thing he did with Kuina. I believe this is how Zoro chooses to deal with the concept of death, the concept of grieving. He gives them respect and then takes something to remember them by. In this case, Shunri, like I said. It's a physical representation of them, or at the very least, a representation of how Zoro remembers them. He carries these little physical representations of that. And then, unfortunately though, nothing happens on Trailer Bark that supports Zoro not fearing death. Yup, nothing at all. Absolutely nothing. If Zoro were to, God forbid, die in the story, would Zoro worry about how the crew would remember him? Would Zoro want them to carry his swords or even at least his bandana? You might never know unless Zoro dies. And finally, I swear this is the last time we are skipping ahead. We arrive in the Wano country right after he defeats King. He is met with the Reaper and Zoro screams for him to get away. Zoro does not want to die, but you can't simply say he's afraid of it here. My girlfriend, Serena, actually argued that he's more cautious of it rather than afraid. But that she does agree that Zoro, at this point and in the beginning, has a different view of death. Zoro has, for the most part, stopped killing his targets, even showing mercy in one or two occasions, in Whiskey Peak and Punk Hazard. But he still respects the dead the same way, even if he was a little reluctant to return Shunsui. By carrying Oden's sword, though, he's still giving respect to the dead. He's still carrying a piece of Oden, and that's, like I established, might be how he chooses to grieve or remember the dead, by carrying them around. But after all this time, after like nearly 1,000 chapters, a lot has changed. He has friends, a captain that relies on him, and a crew who loves him like family. He's no longer the lone bounty hunter carrying his friend's will. He has something to protect, and he has to be alive for that. So I asked you a question I cannot answer, and the main reason why I even made this video. Allow me to set the scene. Zoro and Mihawk clash blades once more. Their blades screeching, sparks flying off, their haki clashing, black lightning encompassing both of them. The sky is being split and Zoro makes a mistake. He is unable to block and Yuro pierces him an inch away from his heart. Zoro loses again, probably the last time he'll ever lose. Blood drips, drips, drips onto the dirt. Thinking of his promise to Kuina, his promise to Luffy of never losing. He can't step back to save himself, right? But if he doesn't step back, he will leave Luffy, Nami, Usopp, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Brook, Sanji, and Jinbei. He will leave the people he once so desperately to protect without their swordsman. Does he step back and sacrifice Kuina's promise? Or does he repeat what he once did in East Blue and stay there, clinging onto Kuina's promise and dying despite the crew needing him? Does Zoro step back? Okay, that was the end of the video. So, I may have lied a bit in the script. The main reason why I made this video was because it's a Valentine's gift for my girlfriend, Serena. Happy Valentine's Day, wifey. So, I hope you enjoyed the video and subscribe, I guess. Also, like the video, comment, ring the bell, I guess. Bye.